your problem. So what might this problem be? You might be asking yourselves. You might be thinking to yourselves, Amanda, chill. It can't be that big of a problem. If you're bringing us into it, okay, it can't be that big of a problem. Yes, it is. My problem is I have 399 books on my physical TBR, and you heard that right, physical TBR. My physical, okay? So that means it's not on my Kindle, okay? I don't even own one of those. It's not, just like something I need to buy as of yet, okay? No, it's on my physical TBR. For the past 11 years, I have been accumulating books, and now I have to read them, and I'd like to take you along on that journey. So for emphasis, I have 399 books on my physical TBR. I have 632 books on my shelf, so a little bit of a discrepancy, I should say. In order for me to read these books, it's going to take me years and years and years and years and years, but I thought, what better way to document that progress than starting a YouTube channel? So here is what that is. I am going to go over all of the main genres that are on my physical TBR. I'm not going to actually show you every book on my physical TBR because that would be a 3-hour-long video that I don't have time for right now, maybe in the future. My favorite genres of all time are fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and historical fiction. I have read a lot of fantasy. I actually haven't read a lot of sci-fi. And I have read a lot of horror, but not a lot of historical fiction. And I think sci-fi and historical fiction just interests me because it's just like something that's I've always wanted to read. And for some reason, I buy other books instead. So as far as which books I actually own, we're gonna start off with fantasy. Yes, fantasy is my favorite genre of all time. I don't think it ever will stop being my favorite genre. It's been my favorite genre since I was a little kid. Fantasy takes up 32% of my physical TBR, which is like a third. And I think that's pretty reasonable. And I have so many exciting reads that I want to take you guys along with, so let's do it. Next up, sci-fi. I have only 4%. Now you're thinking, Amanda, that's your favorite genre. I actually haven't read a ton of sci-fi, but the sci-fi that I have read, I've loved. And so I would like to keep reading sci-fi. It just might take me a little bit to get there. 4%. And I'd like to eventually build up that collection. Next up is horror, which takes up 6.2% of my physical TBR. And I think this is because I've actually read quite a bit of the horror on my shelf. I think that's why that number is down so much. Usually during spooky fall season, I get the urge to read horror, and I've been dwindling that number down quite a bit, so we're at 16.2% right now. I think that'll probably be where we're always going to be at for a TBR list for horror. Next up is historical fiction at 5.2%. Again, not a big number. And I don't have a lot of these books, and I haven't read a lot of these books, but the ones that I have read are so good, and I always want to read more of them, so I'm hoping that in the future I can get more. But again, we gotta get through this physical TBR, so you're probably thinking to yourself, Amanda, that's only 40% of your list. Yeah, I know. There are a lot of books that I would like to read, that I like the idea of reading, but I don't necessarily want to pick up all the time, and so let's go through those genres. The first up is literary fiction at 12% of my physical TBR. You're going to notice that the 3 genres in the next part of this list, including literary fiction, are all of the ones that I like the idea of reading, but don't necessarily pick up that often. And I think because I'm not picking them up as often, they're just not getting as dwindled down as I would like on my shelf. Literary fiction makes up 12%. I have a lot of literary fiction, and I think a lot it is encapsulated in that genre, so it just ends up being that the little bits and bobs on my shelf fit into this genre. Next up is classics at 6%. Classic books are great. I love classics. I find they take me a long time to read though, because I don't read them a lot, and they are ones that you have to kind of keep reading in order to read them faster and read them with more comprehension, and I don't read a ton of them. I also don't have a lot of them, so that makes it a little bit more tricky to read these books, but I'm excited about them. The ones that I have on my shelf, I'm so excited to read. I hear they are like must-reads for readers, so I'm excited about them, and I like the idea of them. The next one is Christian at 11%. I like the idea of reading Christian novels. I just don't. I find that sometimes the quality of Christian novels can be a little bit, you know, it's okay. I don't read a lot. Like, I find that this genre in particular is probably going to be a take it or leave it kind of genre for me. I like the idea of it though. And then the next four are genres that I'm just not really that interested in. But at one point I was, and so I have a few books on my shelf that are part of these genres. First up is nonfiction. And so again, like a lot of different things is encapsulated into nonfiction. 8.7% of my bookshelf is nonfiction. And I think a lot of these books I think that I would like to read more of, but we'll see. I'm gonna get to the end of them. I'm gonna have some thoughts about certain ones, and I'm gonna have some very few thoughts on other books that I read in this genre. But overall, nonfiction. Hopefully, we can just get at her, you know, get some of these off the list. Mystery thriller. 11.2% of my physical TBR is mystery thriller, and now I know that a lot of people love mystery thriller, but to be completely honest, there was a time when I really liked the idea of them and wanted to read more of them, but now as I've gotten older, I've kind of just set my ways a little bit more, and mystery thriller don't really interest me that much. Not to mention, I've actually dwindled this down quite a bit, and mystery thrillers just don't, like, for some reason I think that a lot of the mystery thrillers that I've read just aren't as good as I thought they would be, or they are repetitive and they don't have a lot of new things to offer to the genre. So I feel like after you've read like 10 to 15 books in mystery thriller, especially mystery, you've kind of read a lot of them. And I don't mean that generally. I would love some good recommendations if you have them. I don't know if necessarily the books on my shelf are going to be good mystery thrillers either. And yeah, I just don't know if I would buy more of these, but I think at one point in my life I loved the idea of mystery thriller, wanted more of them in my shelf, and here we are. Romance makes up 1.2% of my books on my bookshelf. To be fair, I have read a lot of the romance on my shelf, so this number isn't really like a good representation of like all of the romance on my shelf. With that being said though, I've never really been a big romance person. I go through like phases where I'm like, that would be interesting, wouldn't mind reading something from romance, but ultimately just not my favorite genre, and I think that's okay. This also goes for romantasy as well. All of the books that I would consider to be romantasy, I put into my fantasy section, so that is included in the 32%, but again, I think I only have like one romantasy book on my list. Just not my favorite, that's okay. But with that being said, I like the idea of romance sometimes, very rarely. So if you guys have any good reading recommendations for romance in general, I'd like them, just not for me at this stage of my life. Poetry, less than 1%, meaning I only have one book that is a book of poetry. Poetry, I don't even know if I would like, I don't know if I would ever like pick up a poetry book just to read it. I'm just not that kind of gal. Anyways, I think that's most of them on my list. I kind of fit all of the books into those genres, so there might be subgenres that I'm missing, but ultimately those are the ones that I have. 399 of them. I'd love to see you join me on my journey while I read these 399 books on my physical TBR. And if you're like that, Amanda, that's too much for me, it's also too much for me too, so that's no excuse. Alright, here's thank you to anyone who watched this video all the way through. If you want to keep watching, I have other videos that will be available at some point, hopefully. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much.